Welcome to another episode of the Senior Focus. Wednesday, we're halfway through the week. I'm here today with Dr. David Harlan. Dr. Harlan's specialty is diabetes. We're going to talk about diabetes today. Dr. Harlan, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come
My
and talk
pleasure.
to us today. It's a very important topic. People need to know about it.
Yes, sir.
The primary hospital that you practice out of is?
University of Massachusetts Memorial Medical Center.
Okay, so you're at the Memorial campus.
Yes, sir. No, I'm at the university campus.
At the university.
But I see patients at Memorial
I
as well.
see. And certain titles that you have. I have Chief Diabetes, Co-Director of the Diabetes Center of Excellence, and a Professor of Medicine at the medical school.
Yes, sir.
And Associate Director, Diabetes Endocrinology Research Center. What is endocrinology?
Endocrinology is the medical science devoted to the glands in the body, the tissues in the body that make hormones that help regulate all of our bodily functions.
I've oftentimes wondered, what exactly is endocrinology?
Yeah. And of course, one of the principal organs that makes a very essential hormone for normal, healthy living are the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. So diabetes is one of the diseases due to a disorder of one of the endocrine organs.
Let me ask you, how long have you been a physician?
Well, I graduated from medical school in December of 1980, so I guess I've been a physician for 32 years.
For a while.
For a while,
For a
that's
while.
right.
Is there anything that drew your attention in particular to diabetes?
I can't give you a very short answer, but the 1-minute version is a close friend had a brother with diabetes when I was a kid, and I saw troubles that he went through. Then when I was in college, I was an independent major in something called physiology, which is just kind of the engineering of how the body works. And then after I became a physician, I was in the Navy for a few years, and I met a physician when I was in San Diego who is a pretty well-known hepatitis doctor and scientist. And I invited him to give a talk at the Navy Hospital in San Diego about diabetes, and he talked all this time about a mouse model that he had developed for studying hepatitis. And I asked him why he had spent so much time talking about a mouse, and what he said to me was an epiphany to me. He said, I could spend the rest of my waking moments giving the best treatments we know for hepatitis. Now, mind you, this was 1984. And then he said, and I'd be absolutely wasting my time because we don't understand what damages the liver in people with hepatitis. And then he said, if you understand what I'm talking about, pick a disease where you like interacting with the people and you want to understand it sufficiently well to have a chance to make a difference with it. And I went home that evening and thought, you know, I like the patients I see with diabetes. I'd like to understand the disease process, and I devoted my life to that now 24 years ago.
You know, Social Security says every day 10,000 people turn 65 years of age. In the years that you've practiced, have you noticed in your experience in dealing with patients an aging of your client base?
Well, I would say that not so much associated with my practice, but just with living.
Okay.
I recall as a child a babysitter who I think was 65 or 70, and she seemed ancient to me. And what I've noticed is that 65 isn't what 65 used to be.
Yeah, 65 is...
You're quite vital.
Not at
I
all.
consider that kind of middle age now, if you've taken care of yourself. So I think everybody watching this show would agree when they think back that people who take care of themselves and pay attention to their health can stay very vigorous and very active into the 80s and 90s and beyond.
You know, there are certain ailments, medical ailments, diseases that, you know, I don't know if I want to say primarily affect the senior population, but I'll say are, you know, would be more prevalent amongst the senior population.
Correct.
Would that be something that appropriately describes diabetes, or is that something that affects everyone?
Well, it can affect everyone, Nick, but it's true that diabetes is a disease where the body seems to wear out a little bit. And by that I mean that I've mentioned these already, but the cells in the pancreas that make insulin, and that's the only spot in the body where insulin can be made. We have evidence that says that you can make new insulin-producing cells up until about age 30, and then if it happens thereafter, it's a very inefficient process. So individuals who remain lean, active, and watch what they eat can survive off of those insulin-producing cells in their pancreas for 50, 60, 70 years. Unfortunately, a lot of people become less active and become bigger and don't watch what they eat, and that limited capacity of the pancreas to make insulin gets outstripped. So it does become more frequent with age.
What if a person kind of relaxes a little bit, doesn't so much exercise as much as they should, maybe is a little bit loose with respect to their diet, they eat maybe some things they shouldn't, and maybe I'm talking about myself right now, and is it possible to kind of get back on the stick, so to speak, begin exercising, watch your diet, and then have your body kind of regenerate itself? Or
Absolutely. In medicine, in physiology, I told you I was a physiology major in college, we talk about something called homeostasis.
Okay.
And it's just the balance that the body tries to achieve. And we know not just for diabetes, but for heart failure and many other conditions, that the body will try to compensate until it's just too much and then it gives up.
Right.
Amazingly, with very little movement back toward normal and better behaviors, the body can achieve balance again. Most dramatically in individuals with diabetes, we see this in individuals who have type 2 diabetes associated with morbid obesity who elect to go for this bypass surgery, gastric bypass surgery. We sometimes see individuals who are on hundreds of units of insulin a day get this bypass surgery, and even before they lose very much weight at all, they can come off insulin. So it can switch like that. It's all that critical decisions that individuals make about how they live. So the short answer to your question is yes, homeostasis can be achieved again.
what exactly is diabetes?
Nick, diabetes is one of the medical illnesses that is been described in the literature longer than any other. We've known about it for about 2,000 years. The term itself means siphon, or to pass through. The old doctors from 2,500 years ago just noticed that certain individuals started urinating frequently and they would lose weight and they would die. And they thought somehow that life was being sucked out of them into their urine. So diabetes means siphon. And then the word mellitus was added many years later because it was noticed that when someone gets diabetes, their urine is sweet. So it really means honey siphon or sweet siphon. So the short answer to your question is diabetes is a disorder where there's too much blood sugar in the bloodstream, and we wouldn't care about that so much, except that when the blood sugar gets too high, it causes all sorts of other problems.
Now, I'm not sure whether I heard it from you or I heard it from someone else. I think that I've been made aware of the fact there's approximately 1 cup of sugar in a person's bloodstream. Is that correct? One cup of sugar?
Oh, boy, that's interesting. I've never thought about it that way. We know that there's about 100 milligrams per deciliter,
Okay.
and that there's about 5 liters of fluid. So 100 milligrams times 5 liters, yeah, that's probably about right.
And then someone told me that think of 1 cup of sugar, 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 1 cup of I think it was a 2 liter of soda, and it had like 16 cups of sugar in it, and it was Dr. Phillips. I remember
Okay,
now. Dr.
interesting.
Phillips said, so if you want to drink that 2 liter of soda,
Right.
and know that your body has 1 cup of sugar in its bloodstream and put 16 cups of sugar in your
Right.
bloodstream, think of the harm that you're doing to your body.
That's a great analogy. I'll have to talk to Dr. Phillips. I like
It
it.
stuck with me
Yeah, it
all this
sticks with
time, let me tell you.
Yeah. And of course, you know, the body's comprised of much more than the bloodstream. So what happens when you do take on a huge sugar load like you've described is all the cells in your body are having to work to take up that sugar to get it out of your bloodstream. And it's that type of overuse, just like anything else that you inappropriately use, it breaks down over time.
So let's see if I have this right. The pancreas is a gland, an organ in the body
Correct.
that controls how much sugar is in a person's bloodstream. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it does it through the secretion of insulin?
Of insulin. So insulin, all of our tissues in our body need sugar to burn for its energy.
Right.
But that's a regulated process. So a cell can't take up sugar from your bloodstream unless insulin unlocks the lock that allows sugar into the cell.
And in the event there is some abnormality or that someone has diabetes, there's a problem, what is the physiological effect that occurs in the body if you have diabetes? Like
What causes
too much
it?
sugar, or like how does that affect a person?
Well, initially, like hypertension, if I understand your question correctly, like high blood pressure or high lipids, initially, if the blood sugar is not too terribly high, unfortunately, the person doesn't have any symptoms.
All right, so it's, and I was going to ask this before, you hear sometimes the terminology, the silent killer.
Yeah.
Would
It is.
that apply to diabetes?
It certainly can be a silent killer.
Okay.
But then expanding a bit further, because people may not be aware, frequently when I'll see someone with diabetes, I'll say, when was it diagnosed and how did you know? And they'll say, the doctor told me, I checked a blood test. They didn't know. But it's a progressive illness. I told you that if you're stressing these poor insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, they give up over time. Eventually that individual's blood sugar will rise to levels that do cause symptoms. And there the classic symptoms are that if there's way too much sugar in your bloodstream, they start urinating frequently. That's the story of siphon that I told you about. And their vision gets blurry. And because they're urinating all the time, they're thirsty all the time. And they may even lose weight if it's severe, and can eventually enter into a coma and die.
And you mentioned, I think you mentioned type 1 diabetes. So there are different types of diabetes?
Yeah, the more, unfortunately in medicine and in science, one of the paradoxes that we all deal with is that the more you know about something, the more you realize you don't know it.
Right.
But I can tell you that in general, we have divided diabetes into 2 large subgroups, and then there are even sub-subgroups. Type 1 diabetes is a disorder where the immune system, for reasons that we still don't understand, kills the only cells in the pancreas that can make insulin. If you can't make insulin, your blood sugar is going to go up.
That's type 1.
That's type 1.
Okay.
The more common form of diabetes, type 2, is what we've been talking about, where you have the body's cells are a little bit resistant to insulin's action. Now the pancreas compensates and makes more until some critical point is achieved, and then the pancreas stops working overtime. And so it's the combination of resistance to the insulin action and a gradual diminution in the pancreas's ability to make insulin that causes type 2.
Does the term prediabetes mean anything? Is there such a thing as a person being in a stage of prediabetes?
Yes. In science, we talk about continuous variables. It's somewhat arbitrary where we say a blood sugar is high enough to be classified as diabetes. And because it's somewhat subjective or just arbitrary where we put that target, we have a blood sugar that we say this is clearly normal, and we have another blood sugar we say this is clearly abnormal. But there's a gray zone in between there. And that's pre-diabetes. It can either be because your blood sugar is too high when you're fasting, or when you eat you have too much of a spike in your blood sugar.
We have to head to a break right now, but when we come back, I'm going to talk more about the different types of diabetes.
Yes, sir. Great.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star, deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skin care to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
I know everybody agrees with me that it's wonderful to see construction cranes in Worcester, despite the economy. We've got the mall going down, we've got buildings going up. Here in the Canal District, we've got streetscape happening, the colleges are all building. Things are happening in Worcester. We hope to be talking about all the issues that affect Worcester. There's a lot of development going on despite the economy, a lot of interesting politics, always our share of scandal and whatnot, and we hope to have a lively repartee.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE and switch to Charter Business Internet and phone for just $99 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL, plus unlimited long distance. Getting a business bundle for just $99 a month makes for an easy decision. But hurry, because this offer won't last. So call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE today. To the victor go the spoils.
Tired of weather reports that don't focus on Central Mass? Introducing Worcester Weather, the only video weather report for Worcester. Worcester Weather is easily accessible 24/7 by visiting chartertv3.com. It is updated throughout the day to give you the best video forecast possible. Worcester Weather also airs at 5 p.m. during the Jordan Levy Show and every Worcester News Tonight telecast. Worcester Weather gives you the local forecast you have always wanted. Worcester Weather on Charter TV3 and chartertv3.com. Brought to you by Berterra Nissan of Auburn.
I'm Caitlin Tivnan from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the Senior Focus. I'm your host, Attorney Nick Kaltzis. I'm here with Dr. David Harlan. We're talking about different types of diabetes, and you indicated that basically you and other medical professionals have pretty much segmented or categorized as type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and with respect to the amount of sugar in a person's blood, there's this gray area where they might be pre-diabetic.
That's correct.
Okay. How common is diabetes? My mother was diabetic.
Yeah. I would bet that there's not anybody watching us here today, Nick, that either doesn't know somebody with diabetes or doesn't have a family member with the disease if they don't have it themselves. in epidemiology, or the study of populations, we talk about a term called prevalence, just how common a disease is in the population. In 1970, the prevalence of diabetes in the United States was 2%. 40 years later, it's now 8 or 9%. It's quadrupled in 40 to 50 years. There's now an estimated 26 million Americans with diabetes. There's an additional 70 million or more with prediabetes, who, if they stay on the same path, are very likely to develop the disease. In China, there is an estimated 100 million people with diabetes and another estimated 150 million people with prediabetes. And as I alluded to earlier, the prevalence of this disease is increasing at a very alarming rate.
You know, when I think of China, I think of a population, a society that, and maybe it's, you know, something that I'm thinking that is inaccurate, but I'm thinking that they have a diet that is more healthy than our own. I wouldn't think that China would have that many diabetic or pre-diabetic people.
Well, with their increasing prosperity, their and also the change in culture that all of humankind is experiencing, people are becoming less physically active and eating more. It is paradoxical, though. I alluded to this earlier, that the more you know about something, the less you understand. You could drive through China and you would say, I don't see very many obese people. I don't get it. For whatever reason, their pancreatic insulin-producing capacity is adversely affected at levels of obesity that we wouldn't consider obese. Relative to what their culture had 100 years ago, they're obese. They have more fat on them than 100 years ago, but they don't look obese compared to what we're used to.
So it's a cultural or a genetic type of thing, is that correct?
There's clearly a huge genetic component to both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, even larger for type 2.
Let's talk about dietary concerns with diabetes. What exactly are the effects of a person's diet on diabetes?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the dramatic example of people who become so morbidly obese and their life is so adversely affected by their weight that they have this bariatric surgery.
Right. Okay.
Or increasingly, we're calling it metabolic surgery. And increasingly, we're finding it probably should be an option that people are considering even before they get so morbidly obese. But in that instance, you get the operation and things can respond like that. I will tell you that there are other studies looking at individuals with pre-diabetes.
Okay.
A very well-known study conducted by the National Institutes of Health called the Diabetes Prevention Program. And what they asked people to do was exercise 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And by exercise, they meant walk, not something that would seem too hard. And to lose 7% of their body weight. So a 200-pound person would need to lose, say, 14, 15 pounds.
Right.
And we showed that those types of interventions had a marked decrease risk for diabetes, 66% less diabetes by walking 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and losing 15 pounds.
So what some might think is a rather moderate improvement in their condition can have a rather marked improvement in the medical condition.
I call it, it's almost Lazarus-like medicine. People who feel miserable and make rather modest changes can have dramatic improvements in their health, not just by the numbers. I tell patients all the time, I'm not just a numbers doctor. I want you to feel better.
Right.
But you know, the proverb that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step.
Right.
People unfortunately think, and you and I can identify with this, Nick, they say, yeah, I'd like to get there, but I'm so far gone I'll never get there. And they don't take the first step.
You know, I can recall when I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't walk and I was actually very sick, and my neurologist in Boston told me, you know, you have probably less than a year and disease will run its progression within the year, and we don't think you're going to survive. And I can recall telling him, I'm only 35. I'm not ready to give up.
Yeah.
What can I do? So he sent me to an acupuncturist, Chinese doctor in Cambridge, and he said to me, "You've got to exercise." And I thought to myself, and I said to him, "Well, I can't exercise. I'm in a wheelchair. I really can't do anything." He started so slowly. He did just whatever it was I could do, and I improved. I got better and better and better just with a little bit of exercise, and then I was able to increase what I could do. And I think the same thing with the senior population. So many people think, well, I can't exercise. I'm too old to do these things. And I think, well, someone needs to tell them, just do as much as you can do. Don't overdo it. Don't try to do more than you can do. And eventually you'll be able to do more and more and more, and the effect on your body of that exercise will have a profound improvement.
I couldn't have said it better, Nick. And when I see patients, I spent all day Monday seeing patients. I give that same talk to every patient I see. The key to managing any chronic illness, and by the way, your story is absolutely inspiring to me.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I
you.
congratulate you on all of your efforts. But the key to any chronic illness is getting the patient to understand it's not hopeless. There are steps. I'm not just a victim. There are some things I can do here to fight back.
I think it's all a state of mind. I think that what a person thinks is very, very important, at least from a medical perspective, on their recovery, on the treatment of their illness. If they think that they can make headway and they can do something, you know what? I think they will be able to do something. But if they just give up and they think that there's nothing I can do, their condition will, I think, rapidly deteriorate, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's so true, and I will tell you that one of our efforts at the University of Massachusetts is to communicate to every patient I see, or we see, that it's not hopeless. Just yesterday, we were visited by Mr. Jay Hewitt. You may not know who he is. He's a lawyer from South Carolina. But when he was a senior in law school, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And he said, well, darn it, if I'm going to be diagnosed with this disease and have to carry it for the rest of my life, then I'm going to make it do 3-mile swims with me, and I'm going to drag it behind my bike for 100 miles, and then I'm going to run a marathon. So he became a member after he was diagnosed with diabetes of what
Which just shows it's never too late.
Never too late. And now he was a member of the United States triathlon team. He's completed like 20 Ironman marathons.
Great accomplishment.
After his diabetes. Now, that's an extreme example,
Sure,
but we
sure.
have his picture up in our hallway to tell our patients just what you said. Take the effort.
With so many people that might be suffering from some kind of a diabetic condition, like you said, you don't need to go to the extreme. You don't have to do triathlons or
No.
A little bit of exercise is tremendously helpful.
I say that every day. I say if you can walk 5 minutes, that's great. If you do that, but do that every day, and then maybe after a week or two you can do 6. But whatever you can do, it's better than not doing anything.
Now, we've established that the gland in the body that helps control the amount of sugar in the blood is the pancreas. It does it through the production and secretion of insulin, and that is the only organ in the body that
Makes insulin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to have to head to a break in a moment, but when we come back, what I would like to talk to you and ask you is, diabetes more prevalent in men or in women? Does it affect both equally? It doesn't matter, but when we come back, we can talk about where it's more prevalent.
Excellent.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
We represent the Worcester Tree Initiative Young Adult Foresters.
Since 2009, the city has planted 2,800 street trees.
Trees need to be watered 2 to 3 times per week during the summer for 2 years after they've been planted.
Here is one way we help nurture recent planted trees.
We fill the gator bags with water, and water is slowly released into the soil, and it helps the tree establish itself.
As we continue to plant, it's everyone's responsibility to maintain newly planted trees.
To learn more, visit treeworcester.org.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE. Switch to Charter Business and start saving over $50 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL, plus phone with unlimited long distance. Saving your business over $50 a month makes for an easy decision. It's indecision that'll cost you. So call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE today. To the victor go the spoils.
Splash into summer with Worcester Wheels to Water. Sign up now for the fun, safe swimming and recreation program running from July 5th through August 12th.
Can't have a better summer day than that. You and your friends would be awesome.
Program includes free bus transportation to pools and beaches, recreation programs including sports clinics, arts and crafts, and summer reading. To register, call Friendly House at 508-755-4362 or visit worcesterma.gov. Promotional message provided by the City of Worcester and Charter TV3.
They aimed to eliminate the use of electronic benefit transfer cards to purchase items including tattoos, guns, and pornography.
And new details tonight in a deadly shooting involving a Massachusetts state trooper.
I'm WTAG's Jordan Levy. Join me on the Jordan Levy Show weekday afternoons on Charter TV3. And thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the Senior Focus. I'm Nick Kaltsis. I'm here with Dr. David Harlan, and we're talking about diabetes. And when we went to break, we were talking about the prevalence of the disease. Is it more prevalent in men? Is it more prevalent in women? Is it more prevalent in one than the other?
Well, I guess the good news, speaking to an attorney, is that diabetes doesn't discriminate.
Okay, that is good news but bad news.
Good news and bad news. The bad news is it affects young, old, male and female, all races. It unfortunately nobody's protected.
Okay. Now, if you have diabetes or even pre-diabetes, does that mean that a person is more at risk for other medical ailments?
Unfortunately, yes. We talked earlier about this being a silent killer. I've told you off air, as you know, that one of my friends who's a transplant surgeon says that the thing he hates about diabetes the most is how he sees it kill people, what he says, in parts. So diabetes is the leading cause of adult blindness, the leading cause of non-traumatic amputations, the leading cause of kidney failure, and a leading risk factor for heart disease. So for instance, most people know that women are at decreased risk for heart attacks compared to men. That advantage of being a woman is eliminated if you have diabetes.
It's wiped out.
They have just as much of a risk for heart attack as a man does if they have diabetes.
So it can affect multiple body parts, multiple body systems, medical systems in your body.
Absolutely. nerve damage. In fact, it used to be said 100 years ago that if a physician knew syphilis, they knew medicine because it could affect so many organ systems. And nowadays we say that about diabetes. If you know diabetes, you know medicine because it can affect virtually every organ.
Let's talk about its effect on the eyes. I don't know, was it 10 years ago? I have high blood pressure. And I didn't know I had high blood pressure, so I just went along with my life, and I had a central retinal vein occlusion in, I don't know, I think it was my left eye, maybe it was my right eye, I can't recall at the time. But it was a silent killer. I didn't realize what was happening, but things were happening. I assume it would be the same type of thing with diabetes.
Oh, that's true. But another thing that I always say, and it's intriguing to me to hear you talk because you're a common sense thinker, and the things that you're saying are exactly the messages I communicate to my patients. But one of the scenes I like from literature most of all is when Ebenezer Scrooge is looking at his grave with the ghost of Christmas future. And he says, "Spirit, are these the things that will be or that may be?" And Ebenezer has one of those epiphanies, and he decides he's going to live his life different from that moment forward. And while I've told you that people with diabetes are at increased risk for blindness, kidney failure, and heart attacks, these are the things that may be, not will be. People are not helpless again. They can make a difference. So we invest a lot of effort in identifying individuals who have diabetes who may not know it, and then trying to engage the entire population in healthier living habits, because we can prevent these things.
And the encouraging end of the story, at least in my case, was that even though I had the central retinal vein occlusion, I was completely blind in one eye. It was kind of an experience. I remember thinking to myself, I'm a lawyer. How can a lawyer not read and be able to write, their documents and their pleadings if they can't see? And the physicians put me on atenolol. My blood pressure came down, and the central retinal vein occlusion eventually dissipated. My eyesight came back, so there was improvement. They gave me some medicine, and I recovered. If there's someone out there that is suffering from diabetes and is suffering some kind of a vision impairment, and then they seek treatment, is it a reversible condition that they have with the appropriate and proper treatment? Can they get better?
Absolutely. The advances in eye care for individuals with diabetes is one of the great success stories in modern medicine. That we can not only prevent the damage from occurring in the first place through good, proper diabetes management, but by detecting it early, we can prevent it from progressing to blindness. And even when I was in medical school in dark ages, I used to ride my horse to medical school.
Okay.
But there was an irreversible form of blindness called a vitreous hemorrhage, where the individuals with diabetes bleed into the clear fluid that fills the eye, and that was at one point considered irreversible. But nowadays that blood clot can be taken out of the eye and replaced with a new clear fluid. So there are people who can come in with complete blindness that can be fixed. There are, unfortunately, if the disease progresses too far, forms of diabetes blindness that can't be repaired.
Regardless, it's a really very encouraging story, and for people to understand that even if they're suffering the effects of diabetes with appropriate treatment, if they see an appropriate doctor, if they come and see you, the effects, the negative effects of the deterioration in their condition and their health can be reversed.
That's all true. But to many people, those things can say, if I didn't know I was, you tell me there's damage in my eyes, but I don't sense it. What I tell patients is not only will I be happy with the numbers and the measurements I make, but you will feel better. So I mentioned to Mr. Hewitt, we also, whenever we encounter a patient that felt that it was hopeless and then had a moment like you did sitting in the wheelchair when your doctor told you you had a weird, that did something to you. That made you want to fight back. And we have patients like that too. It's different for different people. But whenever we have someone that thought they were a victim and it was helpless and then they decided to fight back, we videotape them and we run that story in our waiting room so other people can hear it's not hopeless.
It was such a psychological thing. I had one neurologist telling me, you have a hopeless situation and within the year you're going to pass away. And I went to another physician. He also had privileges at Mass General. I mean, he was a doctor. And he told me, oh no, Nick, I can help you. Don't worry, you'll get better. And you know what? I did get better. So,
still,
thank God I listened to Dr. Lou, let me tell you.
Well, you listened to Dr. Lou, but you also made a decision yourself, Nick. And to all of our listeners and viewers today, I would say, I'm sure these people say, you know, tomorrow I'm going to get up and start walking 2 minutes every day.
Right.
But then tomorrow comes and it doesn't happen. I say make that decision, make that commitment.
It can be a really slow and progressive thing. I can remember when I first began my exercise routine in my wheelchair, all I did was rotate my ankles. I just rolled my ankles a little, that's all I did. And eventually I was practicing standing up and out of the wheelchair. At first it might have been 20 seconds or 10 seconds. Then it turned into a minute. Then it turned into 5 minutes. And then I practiced taking a step or two.
Right.
So it doesn't happen overnight,
Nope.
but with a little bit of activity, the enormous effects and improvements that can occur, really rather dumbfounding.
It is. And I'll say something else, Nick, hearing you talk. I don't know this for sure. I'm going to ask it as a question where I'm going to flip the tables a
Okay,
little.
of course.
But somehow at some point in your life you've decided to give back in some way because you now do shows like this where you're talking about medical issues. And that's a real reinforcer also. When people not only take the decision to help themselves, but I'm going to set an example for others and help others, that really engages the population.
Well, this might sound a little funny, but I can recall when I was in a wheelchair, and I couldn't do anything, I was in the wheelchair. I might pray for like 7 or 8 hours a day. I wasn't going anywhere. And I said to God, let me get better and I will help as much as I can for those, to those people who need help. And I got better, and because of the assistance I got from Mass Rehab, Massachusetts Rehabilitation Committee, and I serve now as on the statewide Rehabilitation Council for Mass Rehab and Easter Sales. Without the assistance that they gave me, I'm not quite certain where it'd be today. They helped me. They didn't leave me high and dry, and I just want to be able to help people be able to help themselves.
You're giving back.
Thank you.
And I think it's terrific. And all of our listeners can do just that. They can take your commitment and amplify it by giving back. In fact, this gives me an opportunity to say that on September 29th at the University of Massachusetts, because we want to give back, we are co-sponsoring an American Diabetes Association, it's called Step Out campaign to raise awareness and for diabetes and funding for diabetes. I get nothing out of this personally. It's because it's my passion like yours. But I'd encourage anybody that wants to begin to make a difference to turn the tide of this diabetes epidemic that's waving over us to consider coming and taking a 1-mile walk with us on September 29th.
And I presume it doesn't cost anything.
No, it doesn't cost a thing.
People are able to get a lot of information,
Absolutely.
meet people,
Absolutely.
network with people.
That's right.
And it really would help them tremendously by becoming involved.
Absolutely. We need everybody involved because remember the old Pogo cartoon strip? There was a famous one that said, we have met the enemy and it is us. And I'm afraid that's true for diabetes. I see patients with diabetes frequently, And when I sit in the room with them, I'll say there's the two of us in the room, and I can give you advice, but the only one that can make a difference in your life is you.
You know, we're going to head to a break right now, but I do have a question when we come back. I'm going to lead in with the idea of what role nutrition plays, because we have heard you talk about, obesity in the American population, but in the Chinese population, what we might not consider an obese person suffers from diabetes as well. So I'm going to ask a little bit about that.
Okay, great.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skincare to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
Fridays on the job in Worcester.
Is that your lunch?
Yeah, just having a few chips, trying to finish some things up.
You should come out to lunch with us. There's a concert on the Common right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd be game for that.
Yeah, let's go.
Escape the office. Come out to lunch every Friday this summer, beginning June 29th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Worcester Common behind City Hall. Produced by the City of Worcester and the Worcester Cultural Coalition. Promotional message provided by the City of Worcester and Charter TV3.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Pick up the phone, switch to Charter Business, and start saving over $50 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL. Plus, business phone with unlimited long distance. If saving over $50 a month doesn't make your decision easy, this will. Call now and get up to a $500 gift card. But hurry, because this offer won't last. To the victor go the spoils!
Join me on the Hank Stoltz Experience. You know, people are always asking me, what is the experience? Well, that's the beauty of it. It's everything that has to do with Central Massachusetts. From the politics of the region to the great events that are going on each and every weekend or every night right here in Central Mass. It's everything that's going on. It's everything that you want to know about. And just like Kelly Square, where the traffic never stops, we never stop either. There's no red lights on the Hank Stoltz Experience, only on Charter TV3.
I'm Kristen Doucette from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the Senior Focus. I'm Nick Kaltzis. I'm here with Dr. David Harlan. I wanted to ask you about nutrition. I'm still a little bit, uncertain. I will probably be a little bit confused when we're done. But on the one hand, we talk about the role of nutrition, and we talk about obesity, and then I hear that in China, people might not seem to fit our definition of obese, but they're suffering some kind of diabetic disorder or something. What is the importance of diet in treating diabetes?
Very simple question, but it's actually a very complex topic, Nick. we don't know, well, I'm going to come back to diet, but we don't know what it is about the obesity that makes the individual more resistant to insulin's action. We don't understand that. It could be that the fat tissue is making another hormone that tends to raise the blood sugar, and that's an active area of investigation. One of my colleagues at the University of Massachusetts, Dr. Sylvia Corvera, is investigating that question. We think that it's the amount of what's called visceral fat, not the fat that you see on the arms and the legs, but the fat that's inside the belly that is associated with the resistance to insulin's action. And then about diet, that's also an area that is being actively investigated. If you think back 30 or 40 years ago, there was a major push to get rid of fats in the diet. Well, food can consist of only three things: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So if we get rid of fat, people are eating a lot more carbohydrates. One of the existing current hypotheses is that it was that shift toward a carbohydrate diet that may have played a role in the obesity epidemic. So you alluded a few minutes ago to Dr. Phillips' analogy in the amount of sugar in soft drinks. One thing that we know is that the fewer calories you eat and the more weight you lose, whatever works for you, it's likely to help your blood sugars. And it just makes intuitive sense to me that if a person's having problems with sugar, throwing more sugar on that problem is not probably the answer.
You know, with respect to nutrition, I bet there are a lot of people that are out there that are wondering and asking themselves, if I've been diagnosed with diabetes or I'm in a pre-diabetic condition, does that mean that I can't eat what I like to eat?
Not necessarily. There are certain foods that are just not good for someone with diabetes, like a regular sweetened soda. That's just very concentrated sugar. It enters your bloodstream very rapidly, and if the pancreas is already stressed, it just doesn't make sense. But in general, I say what the Greeks said 2,000 years ago: everything in moderation.
Right.
Still, the Greeks didn't have Coke and Pepsi to drink, and they weren't drinking, like essentially pure sugar water back then. Those things, I would just say, cut them from your diet.
With respect to exercise, weight loss, and I know that we spoke about it before, and I would just like to reiterate it and highlight it. How many pounds do you think someone needs to lose for there to be a beneficial effect on their diabetic condition?
My short answer is that every single pound you can lose, people will begin to see a benefit. And for different individuals, it's different. In general, we say the goal should be to lose 5 to 7% of your body weight. But then if people are feeling better, I say don't stop there.
Right.
A patient I've been communicating with, who may even be watching today, I've been seeing her for just a year, and her initial goal was to lose 7 pounds. She's lost now 60 pounds. She was on huge doses of insulin. She's on 12 units a day now. Her sugar wasn't controlled. Now it's easy to control, and she feels terrific because she took the first step.
So with every pound that a person loses, there is benefit. You don't have to lose 7 pounds before you begin to see it. You'll begin to see it immediately if you begin to drop some weight.
Well, I'm a believer in under-promising and over-delivering. So I can't tell you that every single patient, if they lose a pound, is going to notice an improvement.
Okay.
But some people will. And for instance, in the bariatric surgery or the metabolic surgery, the surgery that people undergo for weight loss, some of those people notice a dramatic effect in their blood sugar controls before they've even lost a pound.
Right.
Another startling example that I've seen personally is someone can have uncontrolled diabetes, and if they will fast for a day. Now, I'm not advocating this for our viewers, but we used to bring people into the hospital and fast them for a day, just give them water. Within a day, their sugars would be markedly better, if not normal. So there is a huge impact of diet on the blood sugar. To sustain those gains, weight loss and exercise are critical.
You know, I'm thinking about the person that has, what do you call it, bariatric?
Or metabolic surgery.
Metabolic surgery. I'm thinking that, is it that the person's diet changes when they have that surgery to help them lose the weight? So before they lose the weight, their diet changes, and because of the change in diet, it helps.
That's a huge component. I already told you that a lot of the benefit of bariatric or metabolic surgery can be achieved just by fasting a person, but we also think that there's hormonal changes that are occurring in the body as well. And I hate to sound like the comedians make fun of scientists and academics because we always say it requires further study. But the truth is we don't fully understand all of the benefits that bariatric surgery has on an individual. We would like to understand that process better. So it would be nice if we could give a person a pill instead of an operation that would have the same effect on their diet and blood sugar.
So I think, one of the most important things, we're drawing near the end of our program, but the important thing for people to realize is that in the event they are diabetic, they are not mindful and careful of whatever treatment and whatever their physician says, the fact that they are in a diabetic situation, they have diabetes, it can also lead to complications with whether it's the person's heart, their eyes, kidneys, nerves, their feet. There are a lot of other ailments that can stem from the fact that they're diabetic.
It's very true. I've lived enough, and I'm sure you've lived enough to know that in my life I've never encountered a single big problem that went away by ignoring it.
Right.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen.
And unfortunately, the easy thing to do is to ignore the problem. What you and I are both saying today, Nick, is if you have a family member or yourself are affected with diabetes or pre-diabetes, take a stand, take an active role in your health, and you can change things and you'll feel better.
Not only take the stand, but believe that you're able
Absolutely.
to address the situation.
Yeah.
Even if someone tells you, that's not going to happen for you. If you believe and you try, just a little bit of effort, I think, begins to help someone.
Yeah.
So, let's hope that people out there get the message and do what they can do. But in any event, we're at the end of our program, and I wanted to thank you for joining me today.
It's
this is very
great
important
opportunity.
information.
Thank you.
And I'd like to invite everyone to join us next week for another episode of the Senior Focus.
Thank you, Nick.
You're very welcome.
It's wonderful.
Appreciate it.